Many thanks for choosing us. The Public Utility Regulatory Commission is scheduled to meet stakeholders on the upcoming tariff adjustments. Already, the Ghana Water Company Limited and the ECG have made proposals for upward adjustments in tariffs to help boost their operation. ECG alone is asking for 148% increment in tariffs. We'll be crossing over to the Aliza Hotel, where the PURC is meeting CSOs and other stakeholders. But first, let's gauge the mood of some of the stakeholders that are going to meet the PURC. I've been joined by Ben Boache, who is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Boache. First, what do you make of the ECG's proposal for 148% increase?
Thanks for having me, Asha. I think at this point it's only a proposal. That proposal will be interrogated by PURC and stakeholders. Fortunately, we have opportunity this morning to get into those numbers and appreciate what ECG is thinking. But I doubt that the Commission will grant that quantum leap in tariff when just last year or so they didn't see the need to actually adjust the tariffs for them. So that's where we are. It's a proposal at this point. But if you look at the trend and the escalation of cost and also the depreciation of the currency, I don't see how the tariff would remain the same. It will definitely go up, but how much it will go up remains to be seen after the consultation.
From what you know, is it justifiable to make such demand?
I'm not sure 148 is justifiable. I think the assumption over time was that ECG could improve its efficiency to pass on some relief to the consumer. And that was the basis for some of the reductions that we saw in 2018. But it appears that they have not been able to improve efficiency to really pass on any benefit to the consumer. They are still insisting that we should give them commercial and technical losses of about 23% for 2022, which is still high when they had a benchmark of around 21% in 2016. So we want to hear from them why they think we should adjust it by that quantum, and then interrogate why they have failed over time to improve efficiency and revenue collection, to also achieve the same end of improving revenue flow to the entity.
Let's look at you as a stakeholder at this meeting coming up shortly. What case are you going to be making at this meeting?
I think for us, we need to come to that point, and we will be telling PURC that they have been regulating the inefficiency, and it has become a business as usual, that they will create the debt, they will be inefficient, and still come for tariffs to go and clear those inefficiencies. What they cannot pass on, then it is passed on to the budget or for us to pay through other forms of taxes. We have to look at the industry and streamline it to make it, functional and effective, such that we don't need government subvention when people are paying their bill, to be able to run the power sector. And that decision is really crucial. It's crunch at this point. You cannot have a power sector that requires more than $1 billion. Last year, 2021, the Ministry of Finance had to look for $1.25 billion to pay for the under-recovery of PURC in the power sector. And that is unacceptable. We are not spending that much on road construction, on education, or on health infrastructure. So why would we keep, pumping that much money into the power sector when efficiency can actually address those issues? And government has to own up to say that it has failed to address the issue over time. And therefore, we need to now decide how we address this issue. In 2 years, we have pumped about $14 billion, $1 billion Ghana cedis into the power sector. And that cannot continue to drain the resources of our country.
So what would be ideal for consumers as far as tariff adjustments are concerned, Mr. Boache?
I think for the consumer, you have to brace up for some adjustment. We do not know how much yet. That will be the job of PURC to actually do. Some adjustments will definitely happen, and we have to brace the floor for that.
What are your expectations as a consumer yourself?
My expectation is that it will go up. I don't know the numbers. The PURC has the model. We don't have the model that runs the tariff. We have the model, but we have to make sure that the variables that are going to get into the model is very optimal. The variables are optimal to ensure that the consumer is not necessarily burdened by higher tariff.
But let me gauge your mood on this. I mean, yes, upwards adjustment is inevitable, but the services we are getting from the service providers, I mean, just suppose the two, is it worth it for consumers to pay more? Hello, Mr. Boache. All right, I think we lost Ben Boache there, but he made the point that over the period, there's been so much adjustments upwards, and government must own up to the fact that it has failed and must look at how to resolve the issues. The question I put to him was whether services provided can be equated to how much money they are demanding. The ECG, for instance, is demanding 148% upwards adjustment, and we're looking at that vis-a-vis the services being provided by the ECG for consumers. I mean, is it worth it for consumers to pay that amount of money? When I get him back, he will try. All right, Mr. Boache, if you're back, I'm asking you to look at the services being provided by these service providers, ECG, Ghana Water Company Limited, and what have you. I mean, are we getting the best services so that we'll be happy to pay more for these services?
The services can definitely improve. So what we have to make sure is that we're paying the right price for the quantum of either water or electricity that you consume. It is for them to also improve the service so they can recover a lot more revenue. The fact of the matter is that electricity, when generated, has to be consumed or paid for. And in this case, we have been paying for power that we shouldn't pay for because the consumer didn't even consume it in the first place. But ECB is looking for a tariff to pay for electricity that you have not consumed. And we have to push that conversation to ensure that in the long term, that doesn't continue to happen.
Is it a case of transferring their losses for the consumer to bear the brunt? Just like you're saying, we're paying for power that we've not used.
Yeah, so if you check the tariff structure, we have distribution service 1 and distribution service 2. The 2 is actually the inefficiencies that ECG generates. And that is also passed on to the consumer. And that becomes part of the tariff. So if they were able to improve the system and reduce the inefficiency, that could be a benefit passed on to the consumer. And that could have even ensured that we don't increase the tariff as we're doing currently. So they need to improve the efficiency of the system to pass on the benefit to the consumer.
Ben Boache, I'm grateful for your time this morning. He's the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. We'll be bringing you more from that stakeholder meeting at Aliza Hotel with the PURC in our subsequent bulletins.